Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday, March 31st, 2021. Welcome to This Week in A.B.A.T.E. My name is Josh Witkowski. I'm the State Legislative Coordinator. We've got a lot going on around the state, a lot of events coming up for the month of April and May. We're going to start off by acknowledging the video that we just had there. Like I said, that is the El Diablo run from Lowbrow Customs. They're good enough to have their material to where there's no commercial breaks on it, and it's open for anybody who wants to use it. So I highly recommend going and checking out their YouTube channel. We're going to start tonight off with the number one thing I continually hear about, trailer plates. I hear about it so much that I almost wonder if we are a trailering organization or a motorcycle organization. Now, I'm only partly joking about that. I get it. We use these TA plates, the TA plate being a plate for a vehicle under 3,000 pounds. We use that for towing motorcycles. It also encompasses the very small fiberglass trailers that are behind our motorcycles. So we're going to kind of talk about how this came about and where it's going and where we're at with it. So real quick, Roxanne, I see your question about whether or not they're going to raise bike plate costs like the cars. Funny thing is, that ties directly into this subject. I'm going to be real easy about it. When the capital bill was first introduced in 2019, they looked at the series of plate increases, fee increases that they wanted to bring in. The person that was doing this was former Senator Martin Sandoval. Rest his soul. He has passed on, unfortunately. A.B.A.T.E of Illinois was able to work with Senator Sandoval and a few other people to get motorcycle plates protected to where they stayed at $41. And the reasoning was this. The plate increases were solely designed to go after vehicles that are heavier in weight and vehicles that tear up the roads more. This is why electric vehicles suddenly found themselves paying $100 more than any other vehicle, because they don't pay gas tax. And this was a way of recouping the damage they do to roadways since they don't pay gas tax. The original fee on electric vehicles, by the way, was going to be $1,000, but it got negotiated down to $100. The trailer plates increased, the $100 increase. The TA plate went from 18 to 118. It was never intended to do so. The trailer plate increase was intended for the heavier classification of trailers. As a result of that $100 increase from 18 to 118, this is a 500% increase that the state of Illinois has done. This has hurt church groups, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, motorcyclists. It has hurt small business people who use it for hauling very small lawn tractors and whatnot. It has hurt a lot of people that temporarily use these trailers. It's also hurt people that have boats. And they just, quite frankly, it's really starting to look like the state just doesn't care. And there's no nice way for me to say that. But here's where we are at with it. There were several different bills. I'm looking at a list here. It's close to a dozen different bills that address trailer plates. None of them went anywhere. And the reason for this is because a lot of different bills got introduced to repeal a lot of different parts of that capital improvement bill. So organized labor groups, including the laborers, operating engineers, and more than a few others, got together with the road builders group, and they all decided to oppose every piece of legislation that would have repealed this fee. As a result, when you have those guys grouped together, it's very, very hard to get past that. So every single trailer plate bill that was in existence has either been sent back to Rules Committee in the House, or it has been postponed in the Senate, which means they're not going anywhere. It is our hope that as the session progresses over these next 2 months, that a shell bill is modified to fix this issue. I routinely hear from state representatives who tell me that, hey, this is probably our number 3 issue. Unemployment problems due to the pandemic, FOID card are usually top 1 and 2. This is about the number 3 issue that they deal with. And I think that's pretty important to note. And it's very important to note that, some very powerful groups think that it's okay to stand in the way of this. And here's why they're standing in the way of this. You heard me say back on St. Patrick's Day, 450,000 plates in 2019 turned into 300,000 plates in 2020. 150,000 magically disappeared. However, the state still took in an additional $28 million in revenue. $28 million, folks. That's a tough money to get by, and that's the issue here. Road builders, organized labor, they see $28 million in their pockets. They see additional jobs, additional projects funded in the state of Illinois. They're not particularly looking at the fact that it affects their own members who, use those nice paying jobs to purchase boat trailers, motorcycle trailers, and whatnot. They don't particularly care that it's affecting the nonprofits. We're trying to work with them, but they don't really seem too interested in working right now. We'll see where that goes. But that is where we're at with trailer plates. We're going to have to really get aggressive and, not fight fair is just the way I'm going to put it. That's what it's going to have to be. So, moving on from trailer plates. This past weekend was Heartland Steam up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Seminar to empower, educate, and whatever. It's STEAM. It's a 7-state conference. It's something that we do with different states: Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, Minnesota. All those nice folks together. It's also a chance for us to learn from one another. And if you saw the Facebook Live that I did at 10:30 at night this past Saturday, South Dakota was really interested in how we use this Facebook Live tool. And I learned at Steam that these videos that we do, Chris and I think that, there's only a few of you that are watching it. I had a lot of people come up to me. Michael Hoopy from Hoopy and Abraham came up to me. He said, "Hey, I know who you are. I watch these videos every week." Wasn't expecting that. Wasn't expecting people from different states several hundred miles away to say, yeah, we're paying attention to what A.B.A.T.E of Illinois is doing. And if you would have heard me talk a couple weeks ago, it also turns out the Illinois State Police watch these videos. So we're good to go there. That's kind of interesting. But South Dakota is doing this. I think it's interesting. The other groups, we talked about unintended consequences with A.B.A.T.E of Iowa. We talked about a few different things. And something that came from Wisconsin was that they're looking at how many Teslas are causing wrecks and whether or not the Teslas are in autonomous mode. So that's something that we may be looking to keep our eye on as well. So that's kind of interesting for us. The other thing I want to do, it says Steam and Shout. We want to talk about who we were there, a couple thousand miles, as Michael reminds me. We've got A.B.A.T.E of Arizona in the house right now. That's Michael and Faison if you're watching the comments there. We've got more than a few people that watch. But I also wanted to give a shout out to our Texas A.B.A.T.E and Texas COCI colleagues. Today, they had their profiling bill heard in committee in Texas. And I believe they're waiting on another hearing called the Calendars Committee. So hopefully they get their hearing they want on the Calendars Committee. To Ski, to Paul, Chris, all you guys down there in Texas who were wonderful hosts to us back in January. We hope you're successful this year, guys. Get it done down there. So congratulations on that. The next thing that we want to kind of bring up and talk about here, so we talk about partnerships. We talk about things that we do. Polaris, they of the infamous slingshot that we all know and love. They have turned into a valued partner this legislative season. It's pretty interesting. Let's see, reading a few of these comments here real quick. Herman, I'll address yours at the end there. We'll go from there. Anyway, Polaris, they've turned into some pretty good partners for us. Polaris introduced a bill through one of their lobbyists, a guy working for them, Senate Bill 150. And what this would have done is it would have redefined ATV to eliminate the seat that you straddle. And it would have redefined off-highway vehicle to allow vehicles up to 74 inches in width, current distance is 64, and up to 3,500 pounds. Current restriction is 2,000 pounds. Well, we were opposed to this. Not only were we opposed to this, but Illinois Department of Natural Resources was opposed. Many trail owners are opposed. I didn't find anybody other than Polaris that was in favor of it. I'll just leave it at that. So, going from there, we approached Polaris through their lobbyist about creating a third classification of vehicle that would allow them to sell these very large vehicles, but they wouldn't be on the trails next to normal ATVs and side-by-sides. I want you to understand, A.B.A.T.E of Illinois fully supports recreational development for side-by-sides and ATVs as currently defined in the state of Illinois. The The one thing that we don't support is something the size of a Jeep Wrangler being right alongside a dirt bike on a trail. There's just an issue there, period. So we approached Polaris with our concerns, with DNR concerns, and with the trail owners' concerns, and advised them we'd like to create this third classification. Polaris is on board. It took about 4 or 5 weeks of working with it, and it's happening. We hope to have language introduced possibly as soon as Friday this week. Going to the LRB, we're going to amend Senate Bill 150, and it's something that all stakeholders came together and worked on. And if you know something, this is a theme. We had something very similar with House Bill 656, which I'll talk about a little bit later on, but all stakeholders came together as a partner. Here's the other thing that we've gained with Polaris actually choosing to partner with us. When it comes to off-road issues, we can ask them their position on particular off-road issues and see what the industry is willing to support. This has come in handy when it comes to the issue of 55-mile-an-hour usage, using county highways, public roadways. There's a legitimate concern from the industry, not just Polaris, but several other people within the industry, that if we allow off-road vehicles to start using high-speed county highways and whatnot, that they're going to be subject to car crash test standards, which is something that they're not particularly interested in. So it was really interesting to get that perspective from the industry and to actually be working with Polaris on something rather than against them. If you remember the whole auto cycle thing back in 2015, I believe it was, Polaris wanted the auto cycle to be called the slingshot to be called a motorcycle. We proposed auto cycle and won out. So they are auto cycles in the state of Illinois and now in like 17 other states. But it's cool to have Polaris working with us. But anyway, so that's just kind of a touch as to what we have kind of partly going on. I am going to bring in Chris Hansen here very shortly, and he's going to give us some of the events that are going on around the state. We know that you all are very much, you love seeing your events out here. So we're going to go to it. Chris, take it away, buddy.
Good evening, everybody. And a couple things I'm going to touch on before we dive into events. Just a reminder. I have got the proclamations for Motorcycle Awareness Month out on the A.B.A.T.E of Illinois website. And as I'm reminding you, when you get them, I don't need them sent me, but send me the info of how many you got and who from. I'm keeping track on those. So make sure you're keeping me informed on that. I'm going to remind everybody again, social media, social media, social media. Your chapter's got to get on it. We've got 8 out of 47 on board. That's not enough. If you need help with that, contact me and I will help you through it. But we've got to get going on that. So, but diving right into events, we're going to start Saturday, April 3rd, and that is the Central Illinois A.B.A.T.E Shakedown Run. It's going to be their first big one from 11 to 1. It's a $10 donation. And the last bike in to the event is by 7 o'clock p.m. No exceptions will be made. So if you have any further questions or need more information, check it out on their Facebook group. All the information is there for you. Also on the 3rd, Heart of Illinois A.B.A.T.E has got their chili cook-off. That's at Pub 52. The cook-off is held from 2 to 4 p.m., and they're wanting it in the crock pot, ready to eat by 2:15. So make sure you've got that planned out. They've got different classes, mild and hot, and awards for best of show, mild and hot. So winners are announced at 4 o'clock. They're also doing a blessing of the bikes at that. It's $5 to taste all the chili, and you receive 3 voting tickets. So there's always a good reason to have chili, so go out and support Heart of Illinois A.B.A.T.E and have some. Then moving on to the 10th of April, it's the Open Roads Chapter Train Fun Run. You should definitely do this if you have not. It's 3 stops, food and drinks are available, commemorative T-shirts. They put this on right. So it's a 9:45 a.m. Sign-in at the train station in Aurora, and it's a 10:20 a.m. departure. So ignore my computer making noises. This thing never shuts up. It's $10 a person for the train, $5 for the fun run. So go hang out, have some fun, make a whole day of it there. So Harley, I saw your question on the swap meet. So that information is I know it's now. So this is where the swap meet is. I don't know if this is the one you were talking about, but this is the swap meet to worry about. So Sunday, April 11th is the A.B.A.T.E of Illinois swap meet at the Expo Gardens in Peoria. Just clarifying for everybody that there was potential of not letting this happen, but Mark Ware's busted his ass. He got all the vendors that we need, so this place is going to be packed full of gear, clothing. So that is going to be all set up. There's going to be plenty for you to look at and buy. Public admission is from 10 a.m. to 3:30. It's $7 for adults. If you want first crack at the good stuff, though, you get the early bird admission from 8 to 10 a.m. for $10 a person. And I think, Josh, you wanted to chime in on the building as you visited there today.
Yeah, actually, I did. Chris brings up the state swap meet and the work that Mark Wearies, our activities coordinator, has done on it. It's been an amazing amount of work. For those of you that don't know, April 11th, we're moving the swap meet to the Peoria Expo Gardens because the usual site, which is where I was at today, the Orr building at the Illinois State Fairgrounds, is actually a military run vaccination site for COVID 19. I went and got my first shot today. Reason being, I'm planning on going to DC later this year, and we're starting to be told that when you go out to DC, it may be required in order to lobby and go into the Capitol complex. But Mark had to move it because of this emergency that's going on. The site where we were going to be is actually under the National Guard, and they run you through like cattle. Pretty efficient for a military run operation. Very well done, but I thought I'd bring it up. Hey, this is why we had to move, because our normal site is where they're sticking everybody with an experimental vaccine. It's lots of fun. But anyway, back to Chris here. We're going to talk more about some of the other events we got going on. Chris?
All right, thanks, Josh. Yeah, we're going to move ahead to April 17th to an event that you have to be much smarter than me to participate in, because Lemoyne Valley is holding their trivia night. That is at Slup's Bar, and it's $5 a person. Sign-ups at 6 o'clock p.m., so get out there, hang out with the Lemoyne chapter, and see how good you are at trivia. I've done trivia a few times. I'm never good at it. I always bring smart people with me, so I have a shot at winning. So go ahead and try that. And then also on the 17th, Central Illinois A.B.A.T.E has got their spring fever. I'm sorry, Eastern Illinois A.B.A.T E has got their spring fever run. This is their first ride of the year, so this should be a big one too for them. They leave Buffords at 12 noon. All vehicles are welcome. Obviously, ride your motorcycle, but all vehicles are welcome, and it's open to the public. Sign up is from 10 to noon, and it's $10 a person, $5 per marble hands. So Eastern Illinois always does a real good job at putting these events on. So head out there and hang out with them. And then the last event I'm going to touch on the 17th is the Kishwaukee Blood Drive. That is from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. at Kegel Harley-Davidson in Rockford, Illinois. So you can go out there, give back to the community, donate some blood. And then if you're heading out there because it's in Rockford, make sure you wear your colors and you stop in and support a couple of those local bars, because to hell with the Illinois Gaming Board. Go support those businesses. So show them we're not going to put up with motorcyclist profiling. And then what you do is the next day, you head on over to Will County on the 18th. Will County's hosting their axe throwing competition. Open Roads just did one of these. These are fun as hell. They're great. The event is from noon until 4 o'clock p.m. It's at Axe Factor Throwing in Plainfield. And it's $30 a person. Food is included with that. But the kicker here is that tickets must be purchased in advance. So get a hold of Kathy if you have questions or on how to get your tickets ahead of time. This is definitely something you should try and be a part of, because, again, it is an absolute great time. And then on to the 24th, we're back to Kishwaukee Valley. They are doing their April run. Sign up is from 11 to noon, and that's at Neighbors Bar and Gaming in Love Park. And it's only $5 a person. I mean, you can't find rides that cheap of admission anymore. $5 a person for a day of riding, the camaraderie of motorcyclists. So make sure you're there. Contact Kurt if you have any further questions on that run. And then I'm going to finish this off, our local, before getting into Freedom Fest. April 25th, the Chicago chapter of A.B.A.T E is having their motorcycle awareness run. That is at Llama Chicago on Fullerton. And at 8:30, they're doing their awards, and then kickstands are up at 9 o'clock. And then thanks to Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, the ending point is secret because that's how it has to be in Chicago. So there is that. And then, like I said, I'm going to finish this up by talking about Freedom Fest, and that's April 30th to May 2nd in Taylorville. This is put on by Lincoln Land ABATE. It's at Christian County Fairgrounds, and it's a whole weekend of stuff. So it starts Friday, April 30th, continues Saturday, May 1st, and then Sunday, May 2nd, you'll head over to Freedom Fest for A.B.A.T.E, Illinois at the Capitol. There's info coming on that. Mark's squaring up everything there. So, but yeah, Friday and then Saturday, they've got Run What You Brung, open dirt drag races, live music entertainment both nights. It's $10, gets you all 3 days. Again, we're talking, I mean, where are you going to find events this cheap, this good a time, and to get you all this? They do have 10 camping. They have camper hookup for $20 a night. It's 18 and up only, so don't bring your kids to this one. So yeah, make sure you've got that. I'm sorry, it's Lincoln Land and Midstate putting this on, but you make a whole weekend out of it. End up at Freedom Rally in Springfield. So make sure that is on your calendars. And that is all I've got for events. So Josh, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Our lovely State Secretary, Terry Smith, down there in the comments, wanted me to remind everybody of the most important April event that she believes in. That is April 17th, the Executive Board and Board of Director meetings at the Route 66 Hotel and Conference Center here in Springfield, Illinois. So that is going on. A few different questions that we've seen pop in, talking about profiling bill, legislative day, all that fun stuff. That's actually what I was going to get into right here. Let me make sure we're not missing anything else real quick. Looks good. Alrighty. So, legislative day is April 14th. It will be at the State House Inn. It will be an all-day event. We finally have kind of seen what precautions are going to look like. Here's the way legislative day is going to work. It is my hope that everybody will be there by about 8:30 in the morning. Then starting at 9, we're going to have scheduled Zoom meetings with legislators. We still cannot get into the State House itself. So we're going to run meetings every half hour. 9, 9:30, 10, 10:30, 11, 11:30. And then we're going to take a break for lunch. We're going to come back at 1:30 and go until about 3:30ish, give or take. And then after that is done, we're going to flip around and we're going to reset for a reception. So while we can't go over to the State House, we are still going to have our reception at the State House Inn. And that reception is where we'll be able to interact in person live with legislators. So it's still important that you come down for Legislative Day, even if the idea of Zoom meetings doesn't appeal to you. It's the point of making the impression with the legislators through an innovative method. It's giving us the opportunity to work with them. We may be the first grassroots group to try this. It's either going to succeed or fail spectacularly. Either way, I hope you're along for the ride. I need every person I can get to give us a hand on this one. We'll see what happens with it. But that's going to be Wednesday, April 14th, 2 weeks from today at the State House Inn here in Springfield. Now, as you can see by the header here, 6,500 bills. That is how much legislation has been introduced in the Illinois State House this year. By the way, I was told today by the MRF that is more legislation than what's been introduced in Congress. And it was introduced on us in the last, give or take, 8 weeks. It's going to be interesting. There's been a lot of catch-up, a lot of sorting. On my desk, I have a list of just shy of 200 pieces of legislation that I'm watching. So it's kind of interesting to see all of this happen. Amongst that legislation that we're concerned with, House Bill 2617, that's the Illinois profiling bill. You know, I mentioned Texas's profiling bill. We have House Bill 2617. It did move out of committee last week, but the odd thing was it wasn't slated to. We actually have an agreement that we're working with on this bill where actually there's some technical issues with the way that it was written, and we have to get that cleaned up in order to get an agreement to move it forward. So we're going to be working with some stakeholders to get that cleaned up. Just like I mentioned, stakeholder partnership with Polaris. Once you get that partnership, you get agreed upon language, you get everything to move forward. It's a lot easier to get done. Another bill similar to that, House Bill 656. This bill states that a passenger has to be able to touch a footrest. Now, I know you're wondering, isn't that already law? No, it's not. The law currently states that your passenger has to be behind you. The law currently states that there has to be a footrest present, but there's no law that says the passenger has to be able to touch a footrest. So why do we have it? Very simple. This originally started out as individuals with the Livingston County Sheriff's Department who were seeing some behavior that I don't think any of us would agree with involving small children, and they wanted changes in the law. They originally were talking about pursuing a ban on children on motorcycles. Instead, we took a look at their particular issue and we said, hey, what if we did this? What if we just simply said a passenger has to be able to reach to touch a footrest? Now, there's nothing that says you can't modify the footrest or use aftermarket footrest for those riders that are shorter out there. I know they're out there. I know that I've got an instructor that's 4'10", so we know that it's out there. You can use aftermarket footrests, but the idea was to prevent the very reckless behavior that this sheriff's deputy was seeing. They agreed to it. Sheriffs were good with it. The lawmakers are good with it. We're good with it. That bill's moving forward. It should be coming out of the House here after the spring break. It'll go into the Senate, where I've got some unique sponsors potentially lined up for it. But again, partnerships. That's what this is about. Hopefully we're going to get a partnership going on profiling. We've got a partnership on off-road, partnership on this bill. By doing that, that's how we move legislation forward. Now, like I said, 6,500 bills. Just some oddball ones that are out there that we're looking at. There is Senate Bill 574, House Bill 3855. This changes Illinois liability insurance limits. On one hand, it could be a good thing because it could help when somebody hits a motorcyclist. On the other hand, it could be a bad thing because if you raise the liability limits, you raise the cost of insurance, maybe you end up with more uninsured drivers. To give you an idea as to how weird that one is, the two different insurance groups are actually fighting each other on that one. Rick, you asked, what if your passenger has no legs? Well, I didn't know you got down like that, buddy, but if that were the case, they would be exempt here. That's also why we said they must touch a footrest, because it's to guard for amputees. There obviously are always exceptions for amputees. And as Patty tells you, there's also the sidecar potential there. So, we've got that going on. But like I said, other weird bills that we've got going on. The liability insurance stuff. There's other things going on. There's Senate Bill 2165. That eliminates the requirement that individuals 75 years and older have to test every year. That's a problem that we see with motorcycles. Instead, it does maintain the requirement that if they show to not be a safe driver, moving violations, accidents, whatnot, then they would have to retest. But it eliminates just the ageist requirement that 75 and up have to always test no matter what, solely based on age. That's interesting. This is something I've heard about from our membership before. It's something that I've heard about from the AARP as well. So we're going to be interested to see where that one goes. There's also the possibility of creating some legislation that tracks autonomous vehicle collisions. We've got legislation involving electric motorcycles. We've got legislation that involves off-road vehicle issues we've talked about. There's just a host of things that we watch. There's some veterans issues that are coming in with the DMV that we have to pay attention to because it involves motorcycles. But the point of me saying all of this is this. I could put out a list of 200 bills. It's not going to be very useful to you guys. I try to put out lists that only contain what's hot at the moment. It's why it's important that you sign up for our legislative alerts so you can watch the emails as they come in. It's why it's important that you pay attention to these Facebook Lives. Information changes quickly. We had 6,500 bills dumped on us. We also had an early committee deadline. Committee deadline was actually last week. So it was like drinking from a fire hose. There's no way to put it. I've talked with several other legislative professionals. They said they've never seen something as crazy as what we went through for the month of March. We did our best. I did my best to stay on top of it. For those of you that don't know, I still work a full-time job on top of this gig. And, I do what we can here, guys. So that's where we're at with 6,500 bills introduced. Now, speaking of the 6,500 bills introduced, I've got just a little bit of a rant here. Now, we're going to talk about it real quick. So, I have a very simple question for you. Are you in the fight? And what do I mean by the fight? We've talked about numerous issues, but I think there was a meme that was put out by our own Chris Hansen earlier this week. I saw it on his Facebook. I said, dude, I'm stealing that for the show. He said, go for it. And I think the meme kind of speaks for itself. So let's just take a minute to appreciate this. And there you have it. And as the meme says, don't let politics stop you from fighting for what you believe in. It's not so much an issue of politics. I mean, it can be an issue of politics. I see too often, oh, I don't want to vote for that person because they're this. I don't want to vote for that person because they're that. But there's also the politics of motorcycling. There are groups that choose not to be part of A.B.A.T.E of Illinois because their bylaws for some reason say they can't be a part of A.B.A.T E. Even though they're a motorcycle group, even though we're fighting for their rights, their group is somehow opposed to their members aiding and assisting in that fight. And it's politics thing. It's what their group believes in. But it's also the politics or the profiling that we do amongst one another that prevents others from getting in this fight. We've got, how many times do you make fun of the sport bike guys? You say crotch rocket or something other derogatory, or you say those damn kids. I hate to tell you, but last I checked, we all got old because at one point in time, we were those damn kids. We've all done stupid stuff in our life, but you let that politics, that fighting amongst one another, keep you from getting in the fight. And this is what we need. We need to get in the fight. Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, we are facing two major issues that could potentially affect the future of motorcycling permanently. My kids, your kids, our grandkids, this could permanently affect them. You hear me talk about autonomous vehicles. The safety advocates out there see us as a problem. They see motorcycles as a threat to their goals for zero traffic fatalities, for zero accidents. They see us as reckless. They see us as crazy. And they don't care what the heck you ride. They don't care what organization you belong to. They just want us off the road, period. Okay? That's a problem. And if you're not paying attention to that, you could see the loss of the very thing that you believe in, the very thing that I believe in, this passion that we all have for this community that we have built over the last 100 years or so. And that could go away because the safety people know better than us. And we've dealt with that before. But the other one, are you in the fight? A.B.A.T.E of Illinois has pursued, I don't know how many profiling issues, okay? We've pursued when Tinley Park said no colors at their government-run facility. We fought that. When Harvard and Hebron had ordinances that said you can't wear a vest or you could be potentially arrested for disorderly conduct, we fought that. We got them to change that. When these places are being harassed by the Illinois Gaming Board, and let's be really clear about what's happening in Northwest Illinois. You have taxpayer-funded dollars in the form of these government agents going into a bar and threatening the First Amendment rights of private citizens. Period. Now, if that doesn't bother you, if you say, oh, well, it's not my club, it's not my organization, you're right. It's not your club. It's not your organization. Today. Once you get rid of the first group, because, hey, we're only after the scary ones right now, it becomes easier to get rid of the next group because you know what? Your group used to ride with the scary people. So now we can't trust you. So you get rid of that group. Then you get rid of the groups that they belong to. And you say, nope, they're a criminal element now. I want you to understand these people have been branded criminals by a list without having actually done any criminal activity themselves. And they're having their First Amendment rights threatened by government, by our taxpayer dollars. That should bother everybody. But here's the thing. The very groups that it should bother, I'm not seeing getting involved in this fight. Some of those same groups have rules against joining the organization that's out there and fighting for them. Now, if you've got friends that are in some of these groups, it's time to start asking, hey, are you a member? Why aren't you a member? You know, we're doing this, this, and this. Why aren't you part of this? Because I'm going to tell you what, one thing I've learned from these videos that I'm doing, I get a lot of people that come up to me, oh man, yeah, it's great. We see your videos. Next person that tells me that, I'm going to say, cool, are you a member? Because that's the thing. We're in this for everybody. I'm out here busting my butt. Chris is out here busting his butt. Ryan busts his butt. Everybody out here. We're working for sport bikes. We're working for cruisers. We're working for clubs. We're working for regular associations. And we're looking at the future of motorcycling because this is a huge shift we're about to undergo, ladies and gentlemen. Transportation in and of itself is going to see a major shift in the next 10 years. Our rights, our civil liberties are under attack. We're seeing a major shift in that. It's time to stand up and fight, and it's time to ask yourself whether or not you're in the fight. I know that if you're watching this video, I'm looking at everybody that's online right now. I know that you're in the fight. I know you're a part of this. But if you're just coming across this video because somebody said, hey, might want to go take a look at this, it's time to decide. It's $25 a year to be in this fight. It's $25 a year to protect your rights and say that you are doing something. Even if you never show up to a meeting, that $25 is helpful. And if you do show up to a meeting and you decide to get active, guess what? You can help chart the future of this organization by doing that. And it's time to get in the fight, ladies and gentlemen. So, with that said, I did see quite a few questions. We're going to go right into the wrap up. I appreciate you hanging there with me. So, wrap up, questions, all that fun stuff. Terry, who am I calling old? Let's face it, we're all getting old. Chris, no, I have zero intention of ever running for governor. Running for office is a lot scarier than anybody realizes. And if you want to talk about that, we can. Patty, I hope I covered your questions about the Texas profiling bill versus Illinois bill. Mike Scoville, I hope I got your questions about legislative day. Like I said, April 14th is going to be legislative day at the State House in Springfield. And then April 17th, that Saturday, is e-board and BOD. And April 11th, the weekend prior to that, is going to be the Illinois A.B.A.T.E swap meet. I do want to apologize. I will not be at the A.B.A.T.E of Illinois swap meet. I was already slated to teach classes in Galesburg at Carl Sandburg Community College, teaching our next generation of riders, hopefully. For those that don't know, I'm a motorcycle safety instructor. So I won't be there at the swap meet. I hope it kicks serious butt. I know that Mark has been killing it. Last but not least, because we forgot to cover it at the end of events, the Lincoln Land A.B.A.T.E and Mid-State A.B.A.T.E Freedom Rally Freedom Fest directly leads into the A.B.A.T.E of Illinois Freedom Rally, May 2nd. May 2nd, right here in Springfield. Mark Weary's finally got it done today. He got ABATE to agree. We are going to be at the Illinois Department of Transportation building, 2300 South Dirksen Parkway, starting off in the morning of May 2nd. That's where we will all gather. Those of you that are attending the Freedom Fest down there in Taylorville, we're going to ride up to the DOT building, and then we're going to have a lot of fun. Mike, if you can bring a laptop for Legislative Day, yes, it would be greatly appreciated. But Freedom Rally, May 2nd, Freedom Fest, April 30th through May 2nd. It's a whole weekend of events designed to drive that turnout up. We had 700 motorcycles 2 years ago before all this COVID crap. I want to see 1,000 motorcycles. I want to see if A.B.A.T.E of Illinois and anybody else that rides. You don't have to be an A.B.A.T.E member to be there, okay? May 2nd's the day to be in Springfield for that. Don't forget, April 14th will be our legislative day. April 11th is going to be the rally, or not the rally, the swap meet up there in Peoria. We've got a lot going on this next month and a half. I look forward to seeing you all out there, and until then, everybody have themselves a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you.